So guys, we are back to studying. What did I? Yeah. So gastric secretion, mechanism of HCl secretion in parietal cells. Basically, hydrogen hydrogen ions should come out. There's hydrogen, potassium, ATPs. Remember that always. And now, if get potassium is going on, there has to be sodium, potassium, ATPs. Okay. Now, for hydrogen, Cl is also required, so chloride will be also going in. There is HCO3 negative and chloride pump antipode. So yeah, CO2 is released from the metabolism of the cells. H2 can be carbonic anhydrase, HCO3, H positive, HCO3, and this is this. How will we get hydrogen from H to CO3? And how will we get H2 from CO2 and H2? Right, H2O, right? So yeah, it's easy. Very easy. I don't know why I forget it in the exam. Mechanism of HCl secretion. Second from this, and we will write this whole thing. And this is also important. In secretion, then this is this. Factor influence in HCl secretion, acetylcholine, gas, HCl. Now, अब remember the diagram I showed you in Gickenum. It was somatostatin, right? Then it was acetylcholine, right? Then gastrin, right? Histamine, that is produced by enterocapherin. Enterocapherin. Okay. This D cell produce somatostatin. Stimulate the G cell to produce gastrin, and gastrin parietal cell, and this D cell acetylcholine. Then this is this. Cholinergic, and then acetylcholine, this, very good. Right, brain, vagus nerve, cholinergic. Vagus nerve can be cholinergic and non-cholinergic. We know, right? Parasympathetic can be cholinergic or non-cholinergic fibers. Yeah, cholinergic is acetylcholine. And non-cholinergic fibers, and then acetylcholine, epinephrine, inhibit gastric secretion, pH, stimulation, histamine, gastrin, acetylcholine, inhibit somatostatin, pH. Then regulation of gastric secretion. You need to remember this. Peptic ulcers is more important. Gastritis can also come. So term gastritis commonly implies a mechanical condition. Indigestion, dyspepsia, specific conditions. अच्छा gastritis पूरे acute Helicobacter pylori gastritis, acute Helicobacter pylori gastritis, acute infective gastritis, bacteria, viral, fungi, and chronic type A, type B, type AB, right? And etiopathies, variety have been appearing. Diet, person, what is the causes of patient? Diet, stress, infection, stress, chronic gastritis if untreated leads to peptic ulcers. This is an important line. Okay. Now, what is peptic ulcers? Peptic ulcers means ulcer in the stomach or duodenum. Stomach or duodenum. Acid of gastric use of pepsin produces damage to the gastroduodenal mucosa and abdominal condition. Acid of gastric So peptic ulcers, the first line that we will write in peptic ulcer is that chronic gastritis when untreated leads to peptic ulcers. Now, peptic ulcer means ulcer in the stomach. That can be in the gastric or in the duodenal ulcer. Now, Peptic ulcer usually occurs due to damage to the gastroduodenal mucosal lining, causing peptic ulcer. It's also called acid peptic disease. Pathophysiology, it is due to decreased in mucosal barrier or due to hypersecretion in the acid or due to Helicobacter pylori infection. There are three causes. Okay, so this is the mucus defense barrier by bicarbonate. Bicarbonates help in forming mucosal surface. This is your cells, capillary interstitial fluid, then HCO3, mucus droplets, mucus cells, right? HCO3 liquid. Now diminished effective, it could be mucus secreted by the cells. Mucus gel cell is about this. We are saying about the mucus membrane. This allows the pH of the epithelial to remain alkaline despite the. Now, due to the mucus gel layer, it helps in keeping the epithelial cells alkaline despite having acidic pH content. However, when secretion of mucus is impaired, the bicarbonate decreases when the mucosa contains and such damage usually due to the use of aspirin and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. Now, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs are given in gout. Okay, so these can be one of the side effects of using non-steroid anti-inflammatory drugs for gout. That's why I don't take too much of it. Hypersecretion, we studied in hypergastrinemia, increased gastrin production. Now it can be psychological and also physiological, not physiological, pathological, where decrease in stress, worry, curry. Remember, hurry, worry, curry. Hurry, worry, curry are the causes of hypersecretion of acid, and basically leads to hyperchlorhydria. It is in Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. Then Zollinger-Ellison syndrome is basically the hypergastrinemia thing. Now, Helicobacter pylori, it is gram-negative bacillus, secretes an enzyme called urease, converts urea into carbon dioxide and ammonia. Ammonia buffers the acid surrounding the bacteria, colonize the enteroid by the local structure. Somatostatin secretion from D cell. Cells produce. Right, so Helicobacter pylori infection. It is a gram-negative bacillus which basically releases the enzyme urease, which converts urea into carbon dioxide and ammonia. Now, because of ammonia, it buffers the acid surrounding the bacteria. H. pylori colonizes the enteral mucus, causing local inflammation and decreased immune response, and it inhibits somatostatin secretion. Now, somatostatin inhibits the gastrin secretion. Now, if somatostatin is out of the picture, gastrin gets more in the picture. So yeah, therefore serum gastrin level is moderately high. Gastrin hormone increase. Now it's feature of gastric peptic ulcers. Upper epigastric burn, feeling like heartburn, there's vomiting, there's hematemesis, alina, right? The abdominal features. The main feature of the ulcer is upper abdominal pain. But if it is untreated, causes hematemesis, vomiting, perforations. Now treatment, we know gastrin works in parietal cells. There are H2N3 and CCKB receptors, right? Gastrin binds to CCKB, H2 histamine binds to H2, and acetylcholine binds to this. So these both produce calcium, and CAMP, cyclic adenosine monophosphate, used by H2 receptors. Now H2 receptor antagonist and hydrogen potassium ATPase pump inhibitor, as we studied, muscarinic blockers, gastrin blockers, antibiotics to kill. Now let's go with the first case where there is diminished mucosal lining, right? Now diminished mucosal lining, we need to do what? We need to because gastrin is not increasing or anything, but it's just the mucosal barrier has decreased. Now because the mucosal barrier has decreased, we need something. The HCl and all, they will work just how they used to, but it will keep on because the mucosal membrane is decreased. The lining of the stomach will keep on getting exposed to the HCl that the stomach normally produces, but because of decreased mucosal lining, the effect of HCl on the exposed area of the stomach will lead to irritation and gastritis, and then later peptic ulcers. So we need to decrease HCl secretion. Now we know HCl comes from hydrogen potassium ATPase pump, then H2 receptor antagonist we need, and then muscarinic blockers, which is responsible for hydrogen potassium ATPase pump, right? And gastrin blockers, right? Gastrin, muscarinic, and then when we come to Helicobacter pylori, it is antibiotics. Ranitidine, cimetidine, famotidine, nizatidine, Bhagwan. How do I learn these names? H2 receptor antagonist, ranitidine, Rani, not tidine. Just remember the song. Tidine, 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 tidine. So tidine is for H2. Now we put names in front of it. Rani. Rani in Hindi means queen. So we remember queen, tidine, then queen is on her tiptoes, moving quietly, and like tidine, then ranitidine, then comes cimetidine. It sounds like, and queen is famous, so Rani, famo, like famous. You remember the us and tidine. Ranitidine, famotidine. Done. That's what I remember. Then this. Omeprazole, who there is Uracalfate, muscarinic blockers, atropine. Atropine is muscarinic blocker, atropine. However, we know that non-cholinergic vagal innervation dominates over the cholinergic innervation. Even I came to know about it today. So because of that, this method is not preferred. And this is preferred very, very much, because this is non-cholinergic, through non-cholinergic innervation antibiotics. Glumide. Glue. You remember that meme? Google. Google. Glue. And it was proglumide. Just remember that. Proglumide. Proglumide. For gastric blockers. And non-specific measures are antacid, yoga, cold milk, avoidance of spicy food, and surgical method important. Vagotomy, gastrectomy. Vagotomy, selective, highly selective, truncal, and Gastrectomy is removal of entire portion of the stomach. Yes. This doesn't even come in this. Forget about it. Mechanism of secretion. Talking about pancreatinide contains bicarbonate. No, the bicarbonate should come out. This thing, cystic fibrous transfer regulator chloride chain. This is important. I mean, you should know the protein at least. You know, this is cystic fibrosis transmembrane regulator. Cystic fibrosis. Well, it's basically a chloride channel. Defect produces visceration. Just remember this diagram. There is also sodium, potassium, lipase. Sodium, potassium, ATPase in gastric cells, whereas sodium, hydrogen in pancreatic. Well, let's see our pancreatitis. Ideas to the back. Okay, the pancreatitis, tyrosine are very important enzyme. Right, it is responsible for breaking down things in the chyme to its smaller products, and it activates in the duodenum. But in pancreatitis, it activates in the gland and it starts autodigestion of the gland. Simple. Causes can be called bladder, chronic alcoholism, drugs like tetracycline. Okay, let's remember just that. Serum amylase increased. Okay, remember in pancreatitis, serum amylase is always increased. Treatment, auto transfusion. Chronic pancreatitis can develop steatorrhea and malnutrition. Schilling test is for vitamin B12 and vitamin B deficiency seen in chronic pancreatitis. Trypsin helps in binding of to intrinsic factor. Okay, I had my sense estimation and fecal fat, steatorrhea, chronic anemia, that type shit. Next, biliary secretion. This bile salt function is important. I should know cholecystectomy. Let's go. Functions of bile salt. So guys, bile salt. First of all, we should know what are bile acids in bile salts. There are two types of bile acids, primary and secondary. Primary are formed in hepatocytes, secondary are formed in intestine. Okay, where intestinal bacteria primary into secondary. Now bile salts are sodium potassium salts of bile acids. Okay, conjugation of sodium potassium salt to bile acid forms are bile salt. Now bile acids are conjugated with taurine or glycine to form taurocholic acid or glycocholic acid. Right. And now when they bind with sodium potassium, they form sodium taurocholate, potassium taurocholate, and stuff like that. Function of bile salt. Bile salt are responsible for absorption of fat and fat soluble nutrients. Right. Bile deficiency causes steatorrhea. Bile salt form following important function: absorption of fat, emulsification of fat, source of bile acid, then bile secretion, absorption of fat soluble vitamins, activation of pancreatic enzyme, prevention of gallbladder, gallstone formation, then stool color and prevention of bacterial growth. Now, absorption of fat by forming micelles. Lipids are transported in micelles. Now, emulsification of fat. It reduces surface tension and says it is essential for digestion and absorption. Now, source of bile acid. Suppose whenever bile acids are required in the body, and if they are not as much as there should be present, then bile salts can be converted back to bile acid. Right. Now, bile secretion. Bile secretions are important. Cholerectis. Okay. Cholerectis are basically they stimulate liver to produce more bile juice, bile which contain bile acid and bile salt. Right, so it activates this thing, and absorption of fat soluble vitamins, activation of pancreatic enzymes. Bile salts activate pancreatic lipase, and prevention of gallstone formation. Bile salts along with lecithin solubilize cholesterol formation of stone. Okay, and then we have okay.